guys, welcome back to Let's Get Real with Michelle. Thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you checked out my previous video. And now if you are absolutely sure that you are receiving everything you are entitled to, now we're going to be moving on to completing your budget. So we're going to be looking at your income and your expenditure. I do appreciate that the title of the video is if you're struggling with debts or struggling to pay your bills, this is what you should do. But the starting point for everybody is you have to do a budget. You need to see what's happening with your money. Lots of people say to me, I don't know where the money's gone. I mean, it happens to me as well at the best of times. So the starting point is you should really look at, okay, this is what's coming in and this is what's going out. You know, what don't I need anymore? What don't I need to buy anymore? You know, what's outgrown its purpose? So if, for example, you know, you sign up for the gym as a typical example so many months ago, but you haven't been and you know you're not going to go, is it worth keeping it? Other things you can look at, you know, insurances, you know, can you reduce anything? Are you in a contract that you can reduce? So these are all the kind of things that you need to start off by doing first, okay? So starting point, income, and I don't mean to teach anybody how to suck eggs here, but income is classified as anything that is recurring. So we could be talking, you know, do you have something that comes in weekly? But then you have something else that comes in monthly, like your wages. Do you get benefits that comes in fortnightly? Or do you have a pension that comes in once a year? Whatever way your money comes in, you know, I'm talking lodgers, rental income, anything that comes in and it's recurring on a consistent basis is classed as an income. Now, on the expenses front, I'm going to ask you to do something. We want to split expenses into two. We want to look at priority expenses because we know those are absolute and we cannot change them. And then we want to look at your non-priority expenses. So we're talking about things that they can vary in amount. So things like your food and your water. Water, you're probably thinking, I'll move on to that. So you can do this in two ways. You can either write it down yourself, put it on paper, write it down yourself, or you can go to some of the links that I'm going to put in the description below. You can access free templates to use income and expenditure forms. I'm aware that some people are charging for them. You do not need to pay for these, they're absolutely free. Okay, I think it's worth looking at some of the more complex ones because they really detail, they go into great length to detail things that people don't actually think about putting into a budget, which I will also go on to. So in terms of priority expenses, just to run through them very quickly, things like your rent and your mortgage, you don't pay those, you could be homeless, you could be evicted, property can be repossessed. Council tax, you don't pay that, you could go to prison ultimately. Child maintenance, you don't pay that. Driver's license can be taken off you, you could go to prison. Gas and electric, if you pay monthly or if you pay quarterly or whatever your arrangement is, if you don't pay that, they could cut you off, you could be disconnected. Now, what I wanted to also say about this is please check whether you fit into your energy provider's definition of person who's vulnerable, or if somebody in the family or the household is vulnerable, because you could be placed on the priority register. And this has some benefits that you should probably have a look at on their website too. Other things that constitute priorities would be building insurance. So sometimes people think, I can't afford it, I'm not going to pay it. Well, this normally invalidates your mortgage, so that's not something you want to do. Same with service charge, is if you don't pay service charge, what happens is, generally happens, I should say, is the company may contact your mortgage provider, and often the mortgage provider would pay that because obviously they have an interest in the property, and then they will charge you, so they will put whatever is being paid onto your mortgage, which now means you owe more money, which, you know, over a course of however many years at whatever interest rate percentage, and the debt that was originally £500 will now be X amount pounds by the time you have to pay it off in 25 years. So if you have the money, I would just say to pay it. Now, the last one I'm going to say is TV license. Now, a lot of people don't think this is a priority, but it absolutely is. If you do not pay TV license, you can be summoned to magistrate court. Magistrate court bailiffs can be called out to your property if you do not pay the fine. And magistrate court bailiffs have powers of entry, so this means they can come into your property. Now, I'm not going to go into that today because I think I'm going to need to do a separate video on bailiffs at a future point in the later in the future. So those are the kind of things that we were looking at as your absolute priorities. You cannot change how much they are, because if you do, you could be in big trouble. Okay, now in terms of non-priority expenses, I mentioned water earlier, and you're probably thinking water is not non-priority. Actually, it is, and not a lot of people know this. But with water, it's classed as a non-priority expense because even if you don't pay, they cannot cut you off. Now, because they can't cut you off doesn't mean they can't take any other action, so please bear that in mind. If you ever had to choose between paying one of the priority bills or water, the priority bills need to come first. So with water, if you do not pay that, what tends to happen is they will apply for a county court judgment against you, which then allows them to take further action. But there's normally quite a process before that happens. But I will also be discussing what other options some utility providers, some water providers tend to have. Now, other things we're looking at, variable things like your food, your housekeeping, toiletries. You know, in the food, we're looking at, do you have any pets that live with you that you have to pay for as well? We're also looking at toiletries as well in the housekeeping. Now, things like your internet, your TV package. So I know lots of people sign up to things when they have a bit more money, but circumstances have changed. Someone's lost their job in the household, or maybe they had a child, a non-dependent, an adult child living with them who's now moved out, so they've got less money. Whatever the situation is, you can reevaluate. Well, my Sky bill is £120. Do I need to continue paying that? Can I reduce it? Can I go into Freeview? I have a Fire Stick personally, however much that costs, and I've got Netflix, which costs less than £10 a month, and that's it for me in terms of entertainment. But I do appreciate that other people have things that they like to watch, your sports and things like that. But it's just worth you reevaluating, well, if I can't afford it anymore, should I continue to pay for this until I'm in a better position? You should also look at your insurances. So typically, not all the time, we tend to be penalised for being loyal to a particular company. So things like your car insurance, your pet insurance, your life insurance, content insurance, can you move, can you switch, can you get it cheaper anywhere else? So I'm not saying to go cheaper but then reduce what cover you have or anything like that. I'm just saying have a look, can I get a reduced amount for a like cover? Gas and electric, if you are in a pay-as-you-go system, so some people use cards and tokens, so whatever amount you use you pay for, and then when that finishes, electric or gas is finished, and then you have to go and top it up. So that's variable, because obviously if you don't have a lot of money this month, then you just reduce the amount of your usage, which you can't do if you are using, if you get billed monthly, because unless you have a smart meter, which a lot of people do these days, you wouldn't really know how much you're using. Travel expenses, if you are, driving, do you need to drive there? Can you cycle? Can you walk? These are all things that are worth considering. Your phone, are you on a contract? Do you still need that contract? If you are still in a contract, please, what I do want to say is do not just stop paying, because lots of people have said to me, I don't owe that money, I ended the contract years ago, and I say, what did you do? Did you write to them and give them notice? They said, no, I just didn't pay it. That does not constitute stopping the contract. You would have to look at what the contract says and how you should end it, and that's how you formally end a contract. Not just stopping payment does not help at all, gets you into more trouble. School meals, so if you have children in school but you're not entitled to free school meals, you could also look at, you need to put that in a budget, because that's money that you are paying. Or if you're going to work and you're buying lunch every day, people don't think about this as something that's costing money because it's £2 here, £3 there. But if you're paying £3-4 a day for over a 5-day period, that adds up. That's £20 a week. That's £86 a month. It's a lot of money. There are also lots of things that people do not consider when they're doing a budget, because they just don't think about it. It's just not something that comes to mind. So these are things like school uniform. So for example, you've only got to pay get school uniform maybe twice a year. But normally it's quite a large expense, you know, for one child could easily be £300, £400. You need to also put that in your budget. So I appreciate you don't pay that every month or every week. But what you should do is when you start completing your budget, you should know, well, I get paid weekly or get paid monthly. I would like to complete my budget on a weekly basis or monthly basis. So you would then divide however much it's costing you for, say, school uniform. So let's say, for argument's sake, you work that out as £50 a month, for example. So you would then put school uniform down as £50 a month, although you're not paying £50 a month. I do hope this is clear. Please let me know in the comments if it's not clear at all, so I can come back and sort of clear this up. If there's anything else discretionary that you're paying or anything else that you pay once in a while. So what comes to mind? Birthdays. So people just think, oh, you know, I've got one child, two children, one child. I've got one child or two children. And I only obviously buy them presents at their birthdays or Christmas. You just think it's a one-time expense, but this is where people actually get themselves into real trouble, because one-time expense could be something like £500 per child, just as an example. That's £1,000. So if you've not budgeted for that £1,000, you will be in real trouble, because then what you find is you've used your rent money to buy the birthday presents or the Christmas presents. And this really does happen. My suggestion would be, what you should do is, once again, break that down into whatever your budget is, weekly or monthly, and put that money. So if, for example, we're saying £50 a month for birthdays, £50 a month for Christmas, £50 a month for school uniform, start contributing that £150 into another account. So when the birthdays roll around, when the Christmases roll around, and when it's time for school uniform, you already have the money there. So that's something to do. Now, there are lots of charities as well that can help with school uniforms, but I am also aware that a lot of them require you to go through an agency, such as Citizens Advice. There are lots of other agencies as well. But that's also something that you should have a look at if you're really struggling and you're just about managing to put food on the table. Maybe it's worth you looking at getting some help with that. Okay guys, so once you've worked all of that out, what you want to do is deduct your expenses from your income. You want to work out whether you have a surplus. So do you have more money left after you paid all your bills? Does it balance? Are you just about getting enough money to cover all your bills? Or do you have a deficit? Are you spending more than is coming in? In my experience, the third is more likely. Lots of people are living in a deficit. There just isn't enough income to cover how much is going out, which is why hopefully you would have had a look to see whether you're entitled to any benefits in the, like I explained in the first video. Now, once you've done that, remember this is just us looking at the cost of living. So you might actually have some debts that you need to pay. So if you've got any money left over, then you can start looking at how you should distribute that amount of money. The section we're going to move on to are some of the options of what might be available, the sort of help might be available if you are struggling to pay your bills. So this is applicable to everybody, whether you're in surplus or not, might be applicable. First thing to mention is in terms of mortgages. So in March of 2020, so today's the 1st of September 2020, the Chancellor agreed with mortgage lenders to offer forbearance. What this means is that they will allow people who are struggling to take a payment holiday or to have a payment holiday for a period of 3 months. So you have up until the 31st of October 2020 to apply for this. And what this means is that you do not have to make a payment within that 3-month period. Now, if you accept or choose to go down this route, please be aware that although you're not having to make payments now, you will have to make the payments in the future. So whatever amount, so for argument's sake, your mortgage is £500 a month, and you decide to take the payment holiday for 3 months, they will then be adding £1,500 onto your balance for the mortgage. And what that also means is that that will also attract interest. So if you've got another 25 years left on your mortgage and your interest rate is 2%, you will be paying that £1,500 will attract interest over a period of 25 years. Please let me know if this is clear, guys. So that's the first thing, so that's the mortgage. Now I just wanted to say also that before this agreement became a widespread thing, mortgage lenders actually offered this before, so this isn't necessarily a new thing. It has always been possible, if you're struggling, to contact your mortgage lender. So this is what my advice would be to you now, or my opinion, sorry, I'm not advising, would be to contact your mortgage lender and ask them if there are any concessions that might be available to you. So, you know, things like a payment holiday has always been an option. You could look at, you know, can you just add whatever, for example, if you have arrears, can you just add them onto the end of the mortgage? So there are various things that lenders tend to look at, and they, in my experience, they tend to be very, very helpful. So if you're struggling financially and 31st of October, so you're watching this video, happens to be January 2021, and you think, oh, I missed it, still contact your lender, let them know your situation. They will be asking you for an income and expenditure, and they will, you know, they will work with you to come to something that will be quite helpful. So hopefully the 3 months will be quite helpful to people who are transitioning between jobs or furloughed or whatever the case might be. The other thing to look at is water. So most utility companies have some sort of a scheme that you might be able to apply to. So I'm now speaking specifically to West Midlands and Warwickshire because I'm quite familiar with these areas. Severn Trent Water have something called the Big Difference Scheme. So it's worth you checking in your area what scheme they have. I am aware that lots of other water companies do have schemes to help their clients who are struggling financially. Once again, you will need an income and expenditure form. I will put the link for the Big Difference Scheme for West Midlands for Severn Trent Water in the link below. And you need an income and expenditure form completed. And if you have less than a certain amount of money each month, then they will then grade you. So they might give you an A+, they might give you a B. What this means is that if you get the A+, your water could be reduced by up to 90%. So when I was on maternity, I had this, and my water was reduced to something like £4 a month. What happens is that runs for 12 months. At the end of the 12th month, if you still want to be on the scheme, so if things still are not very good and you're still struggling, you just reapply, and they will make a decision as to how much you should be paying. So it's worth looking into. Just wanted to let you know once again, if you choose to do this, it might reflect on your credit report. So if you are somebody who wants to have a pristine credit report, then it's something worth looking at. I should have said that for the mortgage holiday payment as well. So it may reflect on your credit file is what I'm going to say. So please, please, please check and ask before you agree to anything. The other thing I wanted to mention is in terms of electricity, there is something called the warm home discount. So this you apply to during the autumn months. So actually today's September. So between September 2020, it's every year, but September 2020 and March 2021, you can check with your utility provider to find out if you are eligible for the warm home discount scheme, or I will also link to the gov.uk page what tells you who is eligible, so you can have a look yourself. And what this means is that you can get £140 paid onto your electricity account. So they don't pay it to you, it goes direct to your account. And what that means is it's just to help you over the winter months to pay your electricity bill. So that's something else that's worth looking at because it might be quite helpful. Winter fuel allowance is automatic, so that should automatically go to people who are entitled to it. But once again, I will link in the description below. It's for people of pensionable age, so I'll link in the description below for you to have a look at if you fit the criteria, and if you're not receiving it, then just give your utility provider a call and just ask them what's going on. Just wanted to say also that the warm home discount, that applies to both people who are using pay monthly, pay quarterly, or people who are using prepayment meters as well. You can also get the warm home discount, so that's the £140 paid onto your electricity account. So those are just the few things that I wanted to bring to your attention that you might be able to get help with. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really do hope you got some value out of this. Even if it doesn't apply to you, please share it with people who it might be helpful for. Please also like and subscribe. It really helps with the algorithm, so the more people like and subscribe, it disperses the video further so it reaches a wider audience. Please also let me know what sort of things you would like me to cover, if there are any particular areas that you want me to talk about, so then I can look at doing future videos on those as well. Thank you, and catch you next time. Bye.